Yeah.
How you guys been doing?
Good.
I mean, I guess, whatever good is for a freelance compositor in New York.
During COVID.
Oh, I figure it's got to get a whole lot better real fast.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of nervous about. Like, we were actually talking about this just now. It's like, oh, like, it's like everyone's so bored and everything. It's like, yeah, like, give it a month.
Yeah, it's a crazy business model, and I see it going a lot of different ways. It's like I've been wrong about the business very few times, and the trends that have been happening are like Nostradamus. Like this is coming down really, and never seen a juggernaut like Netflix ever, happening. So it's really going to be interesting what's going to happen now with the business.
There's more than one now, yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, Netflix basically took the lead, and now everybody's like, wait a minute, we have fucking content. We can resell the shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, wait, don't we own Star Trek or something? Like, yeah, let's
just... yeah, exactly. Star Wars. What do we got? We got.
My favorite is like the Twilight Zone. My favorite is like how they're rebooting Twilight Zone. Is like, did you guys just like remember that you have Twilight Zone?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, it's too old. We gotta do new.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we start recording anytime you want because there's not very interesting what I do in business, but the business that I'm in, on a technical level is one thing, but there's also things that I've seen inside the business that are really interesting, that are very pertinent to what we're talking about here.
Usually we do like an intro and like we kind of like describes like what you do and everything, but it's like I feel like you've just done so much and been in so many places, like I don't even know where to like. Do you want to do like a synopsis of like...
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean we start where I started, and I'll give a 10-minute synopsis of where I was, and then where I came from and what I started with, and we can take it from there.
Do you go into an office? Do you have to like...
Well, we could talk about that too, so what my business has turned into. Now I haven't gone in fucking year. Well, actually, I've gone in a couple of times, but most of the time, 90% of what I've done right now is now from here, and I don't move. Actually, it's like I feel 290 coming on. It's like, oh my god, this is like I gotta move.
Yeah,
I'm becoming like Jabba the Hutt.
I have kind of the opposite problem, but in a bad way, where like I feel like I lost a lot of muscle mass. Like I'm lighter. Yeah. I'm lighter, but I don't have. It's the back kind of lightness where like I'm more frail.
No, I know I got that too because my ass stays in the seat for 15 minutes as I get out of the seat. It's like the muscle and everything just stays back there for a while.
Yeah. Is that a whole rack machine behind you, like to render stuff?
It was at one point.
As
a matter of fact, there's going to be a few stories with those two machines back there. That one that is the first machine I started on. That is Silicon Graphics.
I was going to ask, is that like an SGI system or what are they?
Kind of blurry, but the logo kind of.
Silicon Graphics 35G. That was $100,000 back in its day, and it has 15 megahertz. That one was 30 megahertz with 15 megs of RAM at the time.
Ooh,
right, and over there on the other side, holding up the other side, is the T, the turbo version, which was like the equivalent of overclocking back then. And you're up to 35 with I think 35 plus boosts of like 5 gigabytes of something like memory or something. That point, put on your crash helmet and strap in, baby. You're moving.
What do you use that?
You're at lightning speed.
What were you using that for? Like back when it was?
Basically, that was used for the Paralympics, and we used it for MTV. Not MTV. We used it for Madison Square Garden Network, MSG. There was Al Trotwig. He had a show, and we did this thing with a room, and it was really funny because it was this weird stories behind that. But the software on it was a French software, which is Thomson Digital Image, which got eaten by a big fish called Wavefront, which got eaten by a big fish called Alias, which got eaten by a big fish called Silicon Graphics, which got beaten by a big fish called Autodesk, which is now Maya.
So who's gonna eat Autodesk?
No, I don't. That's talking about juggernauts.
If you want a suggestion, I guess you can eat it. But...
yeah. I think Autodesk is the Netflix of software. If you look at their library of software, my son is in engineering right now, and he was talking about an Autodesk product, and using for solid engineering, and he's looking at something. I think it was there was a format that we used that I remember because part of the software that I used to train with used to do surfacing. That was what Alias did and still does well today, is surfacing for automotive and product design. So when I taught you guys, it was there was NURBS modeling, and I used to teach you just a little bit about it because it definitely was over the top for what our skill set was at that point. But it was a solid model format, and I said, wait a minute, you using solid modeler? He goes, no, it's called solid something. I said, oh, big fish eating little fish, changed the name of something, right? Yeah. So I turned around, I looked at the software, and I went, oh, if you do this and extrude this and do this and push that, and he goes, whoa, pop. You're an artist. You're not an engineer. I said, sit down, Junior. Let me teach you a few things. And next thing you know, he's looking at it and he goes, holy shit, you know this software too? I said, yeah, I knew that software also. Yep. Yeah. So it was kind of weird that we had I was far from proficient at that software, but I knew I had to, from time to time, demonstrate the software. And that's what got me like a lot of latitude. And I learned a lot of little things from that. That was the guy who was the real guy to know was Paul Dervet, and I just talked to him a little while ago. He was he used to design things for Pratt and Whitney, worked for Pratt and Whitney, and worked for a lot of automotive places. And then there was two other guys. Actually, one guy, it's a real interesting story. That I learned because you recording this?
Yeah, I'm recording everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But this is like that we're moving around, and I'm going, if I have to jump back to one part of the story or something, I'm going to definitely end up in trouble.
Just keep it. No, it's all good. Like, 'cause it's funny because you kind of just like jumped into like exactly what we're trying to talk about. Like, I didn't even have to like do anything. You're just like, let me just start with like the history of software and like.
My best job ever was Alias Wavefront. Then that was the midpoint before Autodesk, and there were, as demo jocks, as we were reported to, were engineers, application engineers. We had like a brain trust, and basically from time to time we'd have what was called the AE summits, application engineer summits, and we'd get all the people from all over the world, and we go into a hotel and they'd set up a whole bunch of computers, and we'd sit there eating pizzas and like just the guys from Ghent and the guys from Germany and the guys from France and the guys from and the girls and guys. Sorry, there was a girl in France, and there was a girl in California, Amber, and there was all sorts of people all over the place. We come together and go, well, this is the problem that we're having in New York in Post Perfect, and this is what we're trying. Well, this is the way we solved it in France, and this is what we did here, and this is what we did there. And for the automotive side, there were three brain trusts: Dua Chang, brilliant guy. As a matter of fact, he used to help out with Honda. We used to send him over because he is Asian. I don't know if he's that. And it was funny. I don't think he spoke the language that well, but they sent him over to Japan for a couple of times to help out with Honda. There was Paul Dervet over here in the States who did a lot of engineering and stuff. He used to do, model stuff for Pratt and Whitney and Ingersoll Rand and some of those things. And then there was this one dude. He actually the backstory behind that is he was an engineer. He did this model. The first time I walked into Alias Wavefront is right behind the desk was this Formula One car. Mm-hmm. And the story behind the way this guy worked is that he was a young whippersnapper. He liked doing all these cars and stuff and did all this type of NURBS modeling and did great, beautiful stuff. I mean, and as you know, NURBS modeling has evolved, but even now it's even tough to get like finer details out of stuff. Yeah. This guy did this Formula One car that was gorgeous. I looked up at it. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. I said, who did that? He said, you wanted to find out? He's in the back. He's working right now. And he trained me on a couple of on NURBS modeling and stuff. Mm-hmm. Time went past. He saw the industry kind of changing and moving around. And he goes, I want to move out of this. I want to move into entertainment. So in his spare time working at Alias, he modeled a TIE fighter out of NURBS. Basically, the story is he basically went to Industrial Light and Magic with this TIE fighter, this 3D TIE fighter, and they turned around and said, how did you do that? He goes, I'll tell you if you hire me. And that was it. That was it. Gone. He was gone. And as a matter of fact, with all the buyouts and stuff, he left the Industrial Light and Magic about 2 years ago, where he actually moved over to South Carolina. There's a couple of guys down there. He's now working with Unreal Engine, which is the evolution of where everything is going. So to move from the skill set from automotive, this guy's skill set was off the charts. Yeah, it's like, and he to just move into modeling. He was there for years.
So what you were saying, like he wanted to go into entertainment because like there was something changing about the industry and automotive.
He saw something changing about the industry. He said he thought there were a few things that happened in the States per se, and I think he was tired. I mean, I'm speaking for him. I don't think I know a couple of guys knew a few of the things because there was a couple in that Silsket was a couple of guys who also Brad and some other guys were working for clothing design, and this is like the design of sneakers and stuff. There were people who were using the automotive software to design like Nike. They actually got work at Nike and moved on from there. The unions were a pain in the ass when it came to us. You could have somebody who came in who was getting paid, whatever money an hour, and we'd come in to show them this great software, and they'd look in and shake their head and go, okay, that's cool, and walk away, and had no incentive of actually learning the new technology because they were going to get paid the same no matter what happened. Yeah. So moving the technology in the States was tough, and I don't think he wanted to get involved in that. But he also found that the entertainment industry, just as a personal thing, was just more exciting to him. So that's what he did, and moved to it.
Yeah. So what are you seeing now? I mean, you mentioned that like things are moving into Unreal Engine now. In terms of software, what's like a big trend? Because you like literally you started with like that you so far you've predicted every trend that's happened. So what's the trend? What's gonna happen?
Well, what I do right now is basically I'm still riding that real-time trend. I actually use a piece of software on a daily basis called FizzRT. For the longest time, that was It's a real-time 3D engine, and it was the piece of software that was originally called Frost from Discrete Logic. And Discrete Logic couldn't sell it, and it seemed like this Israeli company bought them over and then rejiggered the whole thing and put it back out on the market. It's VizRT, and it is it's basically 3D, and we use it at ABC News as a 2D After Effects piece. So basically, everything is kind of planar. You use it for lower thirds, you use it for bugs and stuff. But we were going to use actually, this week we should have used it for Tiger Woods to show his skeleton and show where he was getting his surgery done, and nobody even thought of it, right? And even though we have 3D now, nobody uses 3D. We have a bunch of 3D people, very brilliant guys, but they constantly turn around and they talk about, oh yeah, we need. At the time, even now, they were making investments in Mental Ray and render farms and stuff like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm like, I said, what the fuck? What are you doing? I said, what we do is editorial, right? Yeah. Nobody really does like the open or anything like that. We do a lot of like just like real time stuff. I said, use Viewport 2.0 with some of the stuff that we have now, and that'd be gorgeous for what we need to do in 3D.
Yeah.
Nobody does it, right? But VizRT imports all the OBJ models and stuff like that. So editorially, we can, move around them and tell the story. I mean, there's two restrictions on what I do. One is editorial. I got to tell the story.
Yeah.
Sorry, Trump, it's not fake news. We can't tell a lie. It's called slander.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's one rant I've been on for the last year and a half. I'm so glad that's over.
Yeah, well, because you deal with the actual editorial of it, so like you kind of have like access to the truth, so to speak, like what it actually is.
Yeah, it's funny because I have friends that I argue with in the business that on Facebook that First Amendment rights and this and that, and then I sit there and I just shake my head and I'm like, there was a reason why you failed in high school, you just sit there and shake your head. But back to what I was saying is I'm hamstringed by two things. Editorial, I have to tell the story and I have to tell it truthfully. The story behind that, and then it was the other thing is time, right? Your project, you may get a project and you have to go through revisions or anything like that, or things like has to be clean or has to be looked. We have a template that's pre-configured, right? My artwork is going on air at 7 o'clock, right? That's it. There's a work order. There's no, I need another day to work on this to make it look good. No, the story is airing at 7 o'clock, right? So you got to find the fastest way to the template, to the corporate look, the news look, the Disney look, Disney ABC look, and then you got to get to that end point as fast as possible.
I feel like film and TV is kind of doing the same thing. Like I feel like it's like that more and more like that every day, just doing like non real time visual effects, where it's like they kind of everything's templatized or more and more templatized, and they kind of they don't want you to like go through rounds really. They kind of just want you to get as real time as possible with things.
Well, I think who's going through. It seems like he's going through that now. Also, is and he's in charge of that, and it's basically templatizing. If you say it, Danny Williams, right? I don't know if you talked to him or what's going, but I just saw his interview with the pencil thing. He's doing look dev for Netflix.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he's working on like 8 or 10 different shows where he's actually developing the characters and looking at the characters and making sure that the character is what it is throughout the whole thing. I think that's part and parcel of the nature of the business and how it's actually how fast it's actually going. right?
Yeah.
Used to be a production with, especially at the high end, you hear 5-6 years in develop, 5-6 years in the making, just because of the way the computers were, maybe it was
Yeah.
the revisions,
Like
the
thousands and
irresponsibility
thousands
of
of
the
render hours.
producers. Yeah, exactly. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that really steered the industry that way.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, more than ever, you hear of, the not only the storyboard artist, being there, but then you always had the, pre-visualization being there. Then you have this being there, and now that you have like, instead of compositing, putting these huge rooms together with LED, making an LED room and
Yeah.
putting, Unreal Engine in the background, like they're doing in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So it's and feeding that. Now that was something that actually came out not too long ago with what's her name in that space movie? George Clooney.
With George
Oh,
Clooney?
yeah.
What was the movie? I'm trying to remember.
One where George
Sandra
Clooney,
Bullock.
Sandra Bullock gets lost in space, basically. Well,
Yeah, and basically they
Gravity.
had
Gravity. There you go.
That's it.
Gravity.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gravity. What she had all the lights around her, and they basically put the background. I said that makes, all the world of sense. So now you have these high output LED monitors now casting all the light on the person, and you have no screen spill and the LED go on.
Before that, they did it in, I think, Oblivion with Tom Cruise, where they projected, instead of doing green screen, they had like a huge stage and with a room and everything, and they projected the outside. So when the people would walk through the room and look through the windows, there's the actual light. There was just no work really. Like there was just it was everything was real, or as real as you could make it really.
I mean, there were also like old movies where they projected, like King Kong or whatever. Like
it's all kind of we're all still kind of doing the same stuff. Really.
Yeah, we're kind of like going backward a little bit, like back to the old.
Well, it's rejiggering the old ideas with new technology. I mean, it's basically going to happen. It's going to happen. And back to what I was doing is like, I'm doing this VizRT thing, and now we're in the middle of this Unreal Engine epiphany of things and how fast. At that time, I would always explain to the people that I work with. I said, basically, I'm on a video game with steroids. Now, if you look at what VizRT actually is and the tool set that it has, it's weak compared to Unreal Engine, and the learning curve, if you would sit down and do it, is much more powerful. And editorially, I could do a better job in it. I got an open copy here on my desktop someplace, and I'm forcing myself to learn it because it's just a new tool set. It's just another brush, So
have you looked at MetaHumans?
MetaHumans, yes, I saw that. I started looking. I mean, that's and now talking about rejiggering stuff. Mark Sylvester, the founder of Wavefront, coined a phrase called synthespians, right? Synthetic thespians. And he saw that happening way, way, way down the way. I mean, this was 1992, 93, I think he was talking about it.
Yeah.
And, hey, Mark, you're funny. Right? Then there was a movie with Jet Li called One, where Steve Mann worked on that. Right? He actually did just the face placement and put in where he had Jet Li fighting Jet Li, and he did facial replacement. And people were like, hey, this shit there's something to this shit, So all of a sudden, again, just rejiggering technology. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, why are we trying to mocap and why are we trying to put the face and animate it and onto the place? Why don't we just put everybody in a motion capture suit and put the 3D people in there and just have them do the whole thing all themselves?
Yeah, which is Avatar.
Now it's almost like technology catching up to itself again, and we doing, like Ozzy and you said, is just rejiggering the same idea again.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. So you're at ABC now. What exactly are you? What are you up to?
Right now,
Yeah.
basically the only SVA. I stopped working at SVA in the undergraduate program to work with Carmine Latea. Remember Carmine? He was a graduate at SVA. He called me in to be the librarian / tech on a video game at Viacom and Nickelodeon. But Viacom is the overseeing company, and that was God bless them. That place was a mess. I mean, it was like, let's put a show together. Let's put video games together, and let's start with this one. Okay, and it was we'll go to the 7th episode, the 7th season, the 8th episode of Bubble Guppies. So now you got to find the assets that built that. Okay, and the assets basically generated over the first 3 years. So they didn't necessarily back them up. They had the 3 years of assets on some server someplace at another production company. It wasn't done at Viacom. So I basically had to figure out where the production was, and that, how that was done. So I lost my job. Didn't lose my job. It was just not re-upped. But I started doing the continuing education stuff at SVA. That, since the pandemic has gone away, because it's hands-on. You get very little time in the lab to actually do that. So Fierstein Steiner Studios in Brooklyn Navy Yards has a great program, graduate program. It's very condensed. I don't know how the kids are doing it, because it's very intensive, and it's really broad. I mean, they're maybe more film centric than it is CG centric. And I'm basically doing what I did with you guys, is basically teaching them modeling, animation principles, character animation type of stuff. ABC News, I'm primarily right now that I'm pigeonholed at Good Morning America. So when Ozzy woke me up before, he was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, dude, this is if you don't wake me up, I'll sleep the whole day. I basically get on at 9 o'clock at night, and I do all the backstories, or the stories that we know we're going to do. So from 9 o'clock at night all the way to 5 o'clock in the morning, and my cutoff is 5 o'clock in the morning. It has to be 5 o'clock in the morning in this shift, because editorially they have to edit all the graphics that I do into a piece, and those graphics go on to air in the middle pieces. So the richer news pieces are what we use, and you basically have an arsenal of tools there that it's like, we don't give a fuck what you use, just get the fucking air. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. You better have a fucking graphic, or it's your ass. Photoshop, After Effects, Curious Maps, which is a tool that went out the window for a little while, but we still use it for certain things. Google Maps, Photoshop, and VizRT. VizRT is sometimes the play engine. Sometimes we have the ability to go in there with After Effects and make something a little bit more prettier, because it's a little bit more control. It has a little bit more control and a little deeper than that. And I'm always up for a challenge. The great thing about teaching was, you guys don't know what you don't know, and it was like, let's see what I can do in 6 months. Mr. Fina, can we do this? I said, well, let's give it a goddamn try,
That's what I remember. Yeah, it's like anything was like fair game. It's like we tried.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. So everything was great. I think is still the best thing about teaching is that you not only showing people what they can do, but you get a great idea where you can attack things totally different. And the best thing about college is, especially undergraduate and graduate school, It's the last time in your life, and I don't care what J-Mac says or anybody used to say, you know, when they sit there and say, you have to make it look like this, you have to make it look like that. I was always, you know, J-Mac will kill me now. He knew I was behind him go, fuck that bullshit. College is the last time you can do anything you want to do.
That's true.
That is
Yeah, that's it. You know, so if you can like do, if you have some creative thing to do in mind, it's like tell, who was the other teacher that was also telling, if you don't do it this way, I'm going to fail you. It was like, I wanted to slap the guy out. We wound up getting rid of him.
I don't know.
But, you know, it's the last time that you don't have anybody to answer to, you know, and it's the last creative, you know, vestige of, I mean, for Christ's sake, if you think about it, what was THX 1150? What's the movie?
Oh, THX 11.
I'm not going to remember the numbers.
The Lucas movie, basically. Which I do not appreciate.
Right.
Where they run out of
not an
budget
old thing. You see, it's not old. You're young and you don't remember half the shit that's going on. Right?
I'm sorry. That's my thing. Like, to be honest, like, there's a lot in common going on. Like, I wake up late. People have to wake me up. I forget things constantly. I don't know how Arthur deals with me so graciously. He does.
Well,
I wake up at 7.
My problem is somebody has to change my diaper. You know, I don't know.
I wake up at 7,
but
and
that
I
was
have to my
if
office.
you think about it, the THX was a college piece, right?
Yeah.
And I love, you know, people turn around and, when you know the history behind stuff, it's fun to like mess with them. You know, you hear people turn around. You know what THX is? It's theater, home, story. Like they come up with these acronyms, thinking they know what it is. I said, no. That was something that George Lucas came up with. That basically was an actor. Right? They don't realize that THX was just some code he came up with.
That's random.
It was never really anything.
So like over time, do you feel like the education has improved for like visual effects? Has it gotten harder? Because I think we had like an interview about this before, and it was kind of like with Clint Chang. I was talking to him, and it's kind of like there's so much stuff to learn now, and it's so like broad.
Yeah.
And there's so much you can do. Like nothing's really, there's like no limits anymore, really. Like a college student could make something that's like a Pixar level thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, back to what we were talking about to those bastards over there. You know, that I mean, $100,000 for that piece of hardware now, when it's a doorstop. You know, it's holding up, you know, basically the table.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's basically,
It was under. It's actually holding the table up.
Yeah, that's the coffee table. That's the table. That was where I had my corner, and I actually had we call a render farm back there. Now you can see it's just my motorcycle helmets and other stuff. I had like 15. I had 8 computers on there that were my render farm. Now those are door stops also.
Held up by an older computer.
To count it. What it cost? I have one there and one there. That's a $200,000 coffee table. You know, when you bought it, right? Now, you know, this system I have here, I settled on, only because I didn't have the budget for something, but I needed to, you know, start working from home and broadbanding stuff. Titan Computers. This was 50-50, right? I was hoping. I said, "Can you make it?" I'm a Van Halen fan. I said, "Can you make another $100 more expensive? I want a 5150 computer." Right? But it was $5,050, and it's redonkulously powerful. So
nowadays, that's pretty.
And this is something that I remember talking to you guys about when we were in school was. The cost of art supplies and the cost of a computer, and you guys were talking, and even then the price was coming down, but you know the software was becoming, and the software was free, and I was a big advocate of when I worked at Alias Wavefront of giving the software to students and giving software to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, was one of those career limiting statements. All right, we got to come back to this question. Write it down, because I'm going to tell you a story about
Career
something that's going to
limiting,
take.
Maya career
All right,
limiting.
is it harder to teach? Because that's where we're starting. So, and this is kind of an offshoot of this. When I got hired at and Ben D'Impresi is the guy I can thank for getting me into the industry at the time. I learned it was TDI, and I learned Alias, and I learned Wavefront, and I was in that skill set, and I just got lucky that I was using those three. And I was working down in Florida for Disney for a company doing commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Got tired of Florida, came back up, and I was working for a reseller, demoing software and selling software. Basically, they said you can use the software to build your reel, what have you, and that's what I did. And I'm demoing the software, and I'm sitting down with a client, and the client goes, "I hear that TDI has a dial box that you can do certain things with." I said, "All right, let me show you how that works." Then he turns around and he goes, "Well, I hear Alias has the way of modeling that has nerves modeling." "Yeah, let me show you how that works." This guy in the back of the room is like, "Wow, this guy knows how to use two pieces of software." Then there's this other thing called Advanced Visualizer. "Yeah, that's Wavefront. Let me show you how that works." And I open up the 3 programs, and he comes up to me later on after the fact. He goes, his phone rings, and he hangs up, and I don't know if it was part of this situation. He goes, "Hi, how you doing?" He goes, "You really know how to use 3 of those programs?" I said, "Yeah, I kind of kept myself moving, with the tools." I said, "I understand how to use them." He goes, "I think I have a job for you." He goes, "Hi, I'm Ben D'Impresi. I'm with Alias." He goes, "Well, that isn't the truth. I'm actually with Silicon Graphics. We just got bought out by Silicon Graphics. Have you heard of Project Maya?" I said, "No." I said, "What the fuck is that?" Later to become Maya, the software. I forgot where I was going with this, so that's good that we wrote shit down.
Free software.
Uh-huh.
You were a big advocate of free software. That's how.
Oh yeah. So when we started putting Maya together, it was getting more and more sophisticated, and it's almost the lead into the teaching. It was like they started putting all these things together, and they kept holding back from releasing the software because we knew we needed a renderer, but the renderer was the last thing that needed to be put together. And the modeling software was there a little bit, but some of the poly tools weren't there. But for Maya 1, it was really a revolutionary product.
Yeah.
Us engineers were able to sit in with all the salesmen and all the executives. And they were all sitting there going, wringing their hands. "We're going to take over the world. When Maya hits the streets, this is going to be the best software out there. Can't wait to sell." And I turned around, I said, "You guys are not fucking selling nothing." Right?
Mm-hmm.
The president was, "What?" I said, "Guys, education. You got a version 1 piece of software. There's nobody on the streets who knows how to use the software. B, nobody's going to trust a version 1 piece of software with bugs and anything that hasn't been production tested that's going to be out there. 3, I said, the guy who signs the checks doesn't know anything about animating. It's still, at the time, Maya was still $75,000, up, for the software." I said, he's not going to know what he's looking at, no matter how pretty the picture is. So you're not going to sell the software. So when it came to education, I was always, big. I kept going to these guys. I said, "Listen, you have to train your army, right? And I used to rant this to you guys in school also. I used to tell this at the people at Alias Wavefront. I said, you got to train your army, and we got to train the trainers. And we really should grab a hold of this thing." And it really got some kickback because some of the education places, I said, schools are businesses. Don't give me education is this and education is that.
Yeah.
They wanted the software so they could say, it's like, hey, look, we have the software. We need, and we just get, but not have the Danny Williams, the Steve Mann, the people who were there who knew how to use the software and teach at least the basics of what's going on. Right? I said, we have to basically have a certificate program that we will give you 1,000 seats to teach, free, whatever, educational price, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have at least 1 or 2 people who are certified in the software. So that way we're teaching an army of people out there. 2, give it to the students. And I used to rant to you guys, remember this, right?
Yeah.
You want to steal the software? Now they're going to do. You got me on the podcast saying this, so now Autodesk is going to go off the fucking rails.
Yeah.
You want to steal the software? Steal the fucking software. Do what you have to do to learn the software. The day you make dime one, pay for the software, because I've seen TDI, I've seen half of Bubba used to work for one company, another company, Soft Image. Look at them, right?
That was such an open secret too, because like I feel like at SVA, like every teacher was kind of telling us this. I'm not going to name names, but they were all kind of saying this because it's really like when you're a student, it's kind of like, how else are you going to do it?
Yeah,
you know, like how are you going to learn new?
There's that side of it, and then you got to remember. I mean, my buddy's a mechanic, and my friends are mechanics, and my uncle was a mechanic. My godfather was a mechanic.
Damn.
These were the people who had to buy, $150 impact ratchet, or their own tools and all this other stuff. And this was something that we were talking about before. Also, with when you used to come to me and say, but the software, it costs so much, and the hardware costs so much. I'm like, dude, when I went to SVA, I was analog. I was a student. I was a graphic design illustration major.
Yeah.
I remember my first day. I was like, I'm at SVA. Shit, I can't wait for this. I want to learn under Arisman and Dale Henry and Richard Wild and all these people, and then Milton Glaser, and I'm like, oh, this is the best time. All right, I remember going to Dale Henry's first class, and he gives me a laundry list of illustration tools and canvases, oil paint, alizarin crimson, cobalt blue, all these, all these things. And I get there, I'm just grabbing stuff. That's the one I need. Oh, 8 ounces that. And I grab this, and I had like $150 budget, right, for like all this stuff. And I get to the front of Pearl Paint, right, which is the rattiest place in the world, right? I lay down, and the first thing she scans is the alizarin crimson, and it's $75, right, for the tube back in 1982 or so. It was like something ridiculous like that. I'm like, what? Right? Like, that's half my budget for the year, right? And then you paint on a canvas, right? You paint on a canvas. There's no upper left-hand corner that you can pull down and say new canvas. The canvas is done. You have to make another fucking canvas. So, artists have been doing this for years. And then to hear your generation come in and say, oh, you mean I got to spend $4,000 on, a piece of software and hardware? And you sit there and go, that's going to last you for 5 years, right? So, this is an investment in your future, right? So that just didn't get through. I just did some people, and I'm like, I could see the software company giving you the software for free for an investment in their future to have a talent base to build, and actually that was the way that I backed into the industry, is that when I was demoing for that company, before I got on with Alias Wavefront, I actually used to go to the salesman And I remember this one guy, and I remember seeing him at the at a industry. I used to go to the salesman, and I go to all these open seminars, and I walk over to a guy and a salesman, and I go, "Who's buying your software?" Right? He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Well, this stuff is pretty technical." I said, "I don't think, I want to be that person that, uses the software or learns the software for nothing." So I used to give my services away for a month or so for free. And sleep under the desks, whatever, just to learn the manuals and learn everything. And I remember this one guy, this Marty Ferengi. He was actually an employee of Wavefront. And at the time, which was really weird, it's like these computers were so expensive. I walked up to him. I said, "Who's using this software, Wavefront Advanced Visualizer?" He goes, "Why? What are you interested in?" He goes, "I'm interested in learning the software." He goes, "Son, you have to be a computer scientist to understand what we're doing here. I wouldn't even waste my time with you."
Fun.
It's fun, right?
Keep it. We're gonna tell
Right. So I turned around and walked away. Not to know. Then what happened with Ben is I ended up working for Wavefront Alias after a while. And this is another funny story. There I am at a trade show, and I'm working. This guy comes over my shoulder, and I think he was working for Electronic Arts or something like that. He asked me the question. He goes, "Excuse me, what is this?" And he asked the question. I turn around and look, Marty Ferengi on his freaking badge. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, Mr. Ferengi, how you doing?" He goes, "Do I know you?" I turned around and I said, "Yeah. When I started in this industry, you turned around to me and you said you wouldn't even waste your time with me because I needed a computer sciences degree to use the software.
Yeah.
I'm now an application engineer for Alias Wavefront."
Yeah.
You have a question? I just turned my fucking back to him, right? Right there and then, So he was fired from the company as a salesman. And I was working for the company as an engineer, and he said I would never, I just.
Yeah. So I think you're the first person we interviewed where we're at 50 minutes now. And I'm actually out of time. Like I have to leave. So, but
we might have to do an interview part 2.
Yeah, let's do a part 2. Cause like let's do let's do a part 2.
Okay, I'll do a part 2. Because what I'll do then is.
Oh my God.
I know. I'm kind of nervous. Are we going to be able to show this on YouTube? Whatever.
I'll be able to explain how this happened.
Well, you only have a picture of it?
There's only one of them.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we're gonna end on that cliffhanger. Next episode, we're gonna learn about this the Oscar picture and what the story behind it is.
Picture.
All right.
Okay,
all right,
guys. Yeah, but I'm good. Ozzy, remember, I'm working overnight. You got to wake me up.
All right, we'll call you half an hour before we start this next time.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, you don't. I hope I didn't nick myself. I hope I'm not bleeding too bad because
no, you look great actually. You look really good. I think you look
fine.
You look better than like our situation. Like look at what's going on with me right now.
Oh yeah, I know. I guess when I'm shaving off here, I'm gaining over here.
I think we're all kind of like having a rough time. I think. All right, Vic. Thank you so much.
Hey guys. Nice to see you guys doing something good for the industry, and I'm proud of you guys. Yeah. Nice to know the evolution. You're carrying the torch and teaching and telling everybody out there what the business is like.
Right. All right.
All right, dude.
Thank you so much, and until part 2.
All right.
All right.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.